So this is joint work with Hui, who's also here. And it's a paper that is, I think, in the spirit of the conference, because what we're doing is we're basically combining econ, finance, and accounting in one paper, because our paper has a real investment decision or a project selection choice. Then there's informed trading in a financial market. And then we also have a disclosure decision. And a disclaimer to Tim, this is also a theory paper. So another one. So what's the motivation? So on the one hand, we all know, especially people from accounting, know that accurate reporting is extremely critical for financial market participants, because providing accurate information to traders allows them to get a good understanding of future profitability of existing and future investments that the firm has made. At the same time, there's also this notion in finance that traders' private information acquisition is also important, because we know from like Grossman-Stiglitz and the literature since Kyle that stock prices aggregate private information, and so they serve as an endogenous signal that can be used to learn something about traders' private information. And so there's been recently this notion of market feedback, starting with papers by Itai, Philip, and Alex. And so market feedback basically says that this information in stock prices might be useful for firms, because firms might be looking at stock prices. Firm managers might have a lot of internal information, but stock prices might also reflect some external information that could be useful for firm managers in their decisions. And so that in the end, this aggregated private information in stock prices might be useful to improve the investment efficiency by firms. So this was great for people in finance, because now it all of a sudden it meant that that finance has these real effects, right? Because you can learn something as a firm manager and make better decisions by looking at stock prices. At the same time, it was a little bit disappointing, because most of the early feedback papers, they had this so-called crowding out effect. So providing better information as a firm crowds out information production by informed traders, right? So it basically means if there's very accurate accounting information, sophisticated traders in the market, they have very little incentive to acquire private information. And so the efficacy of market feedback is then really diminished as a result. So if you take it to the extreme, in a setting with market feedback, it really means that accurate accounting could even destroy investment efficiency, because it crowds out this ability of stock prices to guide investment decisions. And so what we want to do in this paper is we want to challenge this conventional wisdom in the theoretical literature, and we want to construct a theoretical model in which there's actually a crowding in effect. So more accurate accounting information might crowd in information production by informed traders and then strengthen market feedback in the end. So how do we do this? We construct a relatively parsimonious feedback model with two essential features. So on the one hand, we want to endogenize information provision. So there will be an endogenous disclosure or reporting quality decision at the firm level. And then we also want to endogenize information production by traders. So we'll have a competitive financial market with informed traders, and each informed trader can make an information choice decision. And then stock prices will aggregate private information. The crucial model component that we have that changes the prediction of our model relative to existing models is how we model the firm value, or the terminal payoff of shares. And what we're doing is we're modeling this firm value as a function of two things. So it will depend on the action that the firm manager takes. So think of that as a project selection or investment choice. And then it also depends on the fundamentals. So the firm's profitability, for example. And so to be more concrete, we have a firm manager who chooses between two actions. So this could be more than two, but in the simplest possible case, it's just two actions. Think of this as either investing or divesting in a certain project, or choosing a green versus a brown project, investing in more labor versus more capital intensive projects, and so on. And then the firm value, or the terminal payoff, will be relatively high as long as the manager's decision is state appropriate. So as long as it matches the fundamental, right? So in other words, either the green or the brown project might lead to high payoffs. It really depends on the fundamental state of nature. So the state appropriate action feature of our model is really important. So you can think of this as something similar to a mosaic effect, right? So you basically combine two pieces, the action and the fundamental, to create the payoff. Another important assumption in the model is that our firm manager is imperfectly informed. Why? Because we want to give rise to this feedback effect from stock prices, right? So again, this doesn't mean that traders are better informed than firm managers. We don't think that's a reasonable perspective. However, it means that there's some external information that traders know about, and that external information is at least marginally useful for firm managers to make better investment decisions. Okay, so a quick preview of our main results. So first of all, you can think of our model as kind of providing two sets of predictions. So one is about disclosure, right? That's at the firm level, that's the information provision part. And then on the financial market level, what's the implication for information acquisition by traders? So in terms of disclosure, our model has this catering feature. So in other words, the firm manager will try to cater to the prevailing market belief. And I'll be more specific about that in a second. You can think about this in simple terms as follows. So the manager has this incentive to disclose truthfully if the underlying signal is consistent with the aggregate prior in the market. And this goes back to Gensko and Shapiro, which simply means that if you're a Bayesian updater, then what you should do is, well, if you get a signal that contradicts your prior, you should think that it's more likely that this signal is noisy instead of informative. And so this, this feature of Bayesian updating incentivizes the firm to basically manipulate or have less accurate reporting about the signal that is less likely ex ante. And I'll formalize this in just a minute. And so then we show that the manager reports more accurately. So disclosure is more accurate if there's more informed trading in the market. And this, I think, makes a lot of sense from a theoretical perspective, because it means that informed trading has something like a disciplining role. And intuitively, if the market price is already very informative, then manipulating a signal or disclosing less accurate information doesn't really change prices. And so it doesn't really change the manager's incentive in the first place. So that's one part of our results. Then the second set of results is from the trader's perspective. So we show that, and this is the really interesting result in the paper, we show that more traders become informed if the reported signal is more informative. And so this goes back to the specification of the payoff, because this is different from the existing literature in the sense that accurate disclosures in our model allow traders to use their private information more efficiently. And this is because if you disclose an accurate signal, then informed traders can predict the payoff more accurately. And I think this will become clear in a minute as well when I show you the model. So the key takeaway from our main results is that there's this crowding in effect of more accurate disclosures. So high quality disclosures lead to more information production in the financial market, and then through market feedback, also to more efficient investment decisions. All right, so let me now get into the model. So I'll first talk about the model features, and then I'll talk about the equilibrium. So there's one firm in our model. The firm is run by a firm manager. And so the firm manager gets a private signal about the fundamental. Think about the fundamental as the profitability or the economic environment that the firm operates in. So the fundamental in our model can take two values, alpha and beta. And one of the two signals is ex ante more likely. So this goes back to what I said a minute ago about catering. So in the end, the fact that alpha is the more likely signal ex ante, what the manager will do in equilibrium is she will bias beta information. So the manager will be incentivized to manipulate signals that are actually beta signals because they would be perceived as less informative by the market. And I'll talk more about that in a second. So then the manager makes this disclosure decision. And the way we model disclosure in the model is really, it's a manipulation choice. So the manager observes a private signal and then issues a public report. And the manager will have a technology that allows her to add noise basically to the public report. And then the second decision that the manager makes is an investment or project selection decision. So the manager will choose between the two projects, A and B. And again, the payoff of the firm's stock will depend on whether this investment decision matches the fundamental. As I've mentioned before, we could extend it to more than two projects for simplicity. We have two here. The crucial feature is that to lead to a high payoff, the investment choice must match the fundamental. Then we have these short-term objective functions for the firm manager. So the manager has cares about a weighted average between the short-term stock price P and the long-term firm value V. And then the C function at the end is just a manipulation cost that makes it harder for the firm or more costly for the firm manager to add noise to the disclosed signal. Then in terms of the financial market, we model the financial market in a relatively straightforward way. So we use a simplified version of a Kyle type trading model. There are three types of investors in the market: informed traders, liquidity traders. So liquidity traders don't have information; they just trade on exogenous liquidity shocks. And then there will be a market maker who sets the stock price in equilibrium. Informed traders are the central players in the financial market because they are allowed to acquire private signals about the fundamentals. So, and then in equilibrium, because they trade on this information, the stock price will become an informative signal. And the more informed traders have acquired a signal, the larger the mass of informed traders, the more informative the stock price will be. And that's the feedback part of our model, because in equilibrium, the firm will not just use the private signal to make this investment choice, but also rely on the stock market signal to improve upon the private signal. So that's the market feedback effect in our model. All right, so let me now talk about the timeline. So it's a static model with 3 dates. In the beginning, and this is really the crucial stage, in the beginning, there will be this information provision choice at the firm level and an information acquisition choice by traders. So the firm manager, M, observes this private signal about the fundamental. And as I said before, it's an imperfect signal. So there will be a precision parameter lambda that governs how precise the signal is, but lambda is less than 1. So it's an imperfect signal. So sometimes the firm manager will observe alpha, even though the truth is beta, and vice versa. So you can think of alpha as just a parameter that governs how well informed the manager is in terms of private information. We have an extension, and I might be able to talk about that at the end, in which we allow the firm manager to basically endogenize lambda and at a cost make the private signal more informative. And so then the crucial choice for the firm manager is M. So M is a choice variable between 0 and 1, and the greater M is, the noisier is the disclosed signal, right? So given the private signal Y, M denotes the probability with which the manager reports something else. And something else here is, if the signal is alpha, that would be beta, right? So M is what we interpret as the manipulation intensity that the firm chooses. And so we want to make this costly. So there will be a quadratic manipulation cost that you saw on the previous slide. So you can think of M in an alternative way as also a costly disclosure decision. So instead of adding noise, you can also think of it the other way around, that reporting accurately is costly. And so you have to reduce noise at a cost. And then there will be this mass of informed traders, N, and this will be determined in equilibrium. So acquiring information for traders is costly, so they have to do this at a cost tau. And then through a zero profit condition, the equilibrium mass of informed traders will be determined. And intuitively, a higher mass of informed traders will translate into a more informative stock price in equilibrium. So the takeaway from this slide is really that these two information choices happen simultaneously in our model, right? So the firm chooses M at the same time at which informed traders choose to acquire this private signal, right? So the information choices at the firm level and the market level happen simultaneously. Here, everybody is fully rational and conjectures what the other party will do in equilibrium. So then, given the information choices at the first stage, there will be a trading stage. So at the beginning, there will be a disclosure stage at which the firm manager now reports based on the chosen manipulation intensity M from the previous slide. And so we denote this reported signal by Z. Z is either equal to alpha or beta, and the distribution of that signal depends on the equilibrium choice for M. Informed traders observe a private signal about the fundamental, and then they submit market orders and trade in a financial market. For simplicity, we assume here that the informed trader signal is perfect, but this is just to make the analysis simpler. we could also add a noisy signal for the informed traders. The crucial piece here is that traders have some incremental information about the fundamental, because that, if that wasn't the case, then we wouldn't have this market feedback effect in the model in the first place. And then there are these liquidity traders. You can think of them as either liquidity or noise traders. The important feature here is that their demand U is orthogonal to information, right? So they just submit orders for external reasons, not related to, to information. They're important because if they were not there, then the stock price would be fully revealing and there would be no intensive margin in terms of price efficiency. So then the third type in the financial market is a market maker. So a market maker here sets the stock price based on public information. Here we have two public signals. One is total order flow X, right? So this is just the sum of market orders submitted by informed traders, and there's a mass N of those, and liquidity traders, and we denote the aggregate demand of those by U. And then there's the disclosed signal by the firm. So that's also observed by the market maker, and then the stock price will depend on trading and on the disclosed signal. And again, this will be an imperfect signal due to the presence of these liquidity traders. And so then finally, after trading has taken place and after the stock price has been formed, the manager will make this project selection choice. So she will choose between project A or project B to maximize the firm's terminal value. And so what is the information that the manager can use? Well, it's really two types of signals. There's the private signal, right? And then there's financial market information based on this feedback signal X. And so this is really a crucial feature of the model, because on the one hand, the manager's private signal is informative about the fundamental, but then X, so the trading volume in the market, this is also informative because it reflects the trader's reaction to the disclosed signal. And I'll talk about the equilibrium in just a second. But in the end, in equilibrium, this second feedback signal will also act as an incremental piece of information that the manager can use to make a better project selection choice. Now, the reason why our results differ from the previous literature is really because of the way we model the terminal value. And I want to spend just a few seconds on this. So the terminal value depends, as I mentioned in the introduction, on two dimensions. It depends on the fundamental theta and on the project selection choice I. And in particular, we have the state appropriate terminal firm value. That means as long as the investment choice is optimal, the firm value is high, right? So in that sense, there's not really a good or a bad project here. Both of these projects can be good as long as the fundamental matches the investment decision. So the firm value will be high as long as theta and I match, in a sense. And if they don't, then the firm value is low. So this is different from the earnings manipulation papers that you might have seen before, right? So there's not really a notion of high and low here in terms of fundamentals. It really depends on this mosaic effect in terms of matching I and theta. So as long as the firm invests correctly, the payoff is high. If not, it's low. And this is a functional form that has been used in other papers in the literature before. So then what happens in equilibrium? So in terms of the trading decisions, what we show is that informed traders are willing to buy. So they submit a buy order in the financial market if their private signal matches the disclosed signal. So loosely speaking, if they agree with the disclosed signal, they expect a relatively high payoff and they're willing to buy the stock. If they disagree, then they submit a sell order. So that's what I mentioned on the previous slide. That's why the trading volume in the financial market basically tells the firm manager how traders think about the disclosed signal, whether they agree or disagree. And then this will be useful for the investment decision, because what we show is that the investment decision in equilibrium not only depends on the private signal, but also on the feedback signal. So for example, if they disclose, if the firm manager discloses an alpha signal and there's a positive market reaction, then the firm manager would invest in project A. However, if she discloses a beta signal and the market reacts negatively, then she wouldn't invest in the beta project, but instead switch to the alpha project. So that's the flavor of our market feedback effect in the model. And so then we solve for the equilibrium stock price in this setting. Let me talk about the main results now in my last 5 minutes. So again, the two main results are really two best response functions, if you want to think about it in terms of this way. So on the one hand, there will be the manager's best response. So given a conjecture of informed trading, what's the manager's choice of this information, of this manipulation intensity M? And so what we show here is that the manager, first of all, never manipulates an alpha signal. And this is related to the fact that alpha was the more likely fundamental ex ante, right? So the manager rationally understands, well, if I manipulated an alpha signal and disclosed the beta signal instead, the market would rationally infer that this kind of signal is more likely imprecise. And so that really hurts me. I don't want to do that. Instead, what the manager does in equilibrium is she would sometimes manipulate a beta signal, right? Because that's a less likely signal and less preferred by the public. So M beta is positive, and the precise value, of course, depends on the manipulation cost and so on. The crucial piece here is that the manipulation intensity decreases in the mass of informed traders, right? So if the market is more informed, if the price is more informed, then my incentive to manipulate is diminished, because I know that by manipulating the signal, I can't really move the stock price in the first place because it's already very efficient. Secondly, we look at the opposite best response. Then now we look at how is the mass of informed traders affected by this manipulation intensity M hat, by the conjectured manipulation intensity. And this is the new result, because here we show this crowding in effect. So we show that the optimal mass of informed traders decreases in M hat, which simply means that if the disclosed signal is less accurate, my incentive as an informed trader to acquire information is lower. And so there's a crowding in effect of precise disclosures. And intuitively, you can think about this, in an extreme example where there's a completely uninformative report. So if M hat is equal to 1, then the firm just always discloses alpha information. There's never a beta signal. So when you observe alpha, you have no idea what it means as an informed trader. And so here, even though informed traders have very precise knowledge about the fundamental, they can't really predict the firm value, right? Because they're not interested in predicting the fundamental. They're just interested in predicting the actual payoff of the firm. And that payoff not only depends on the fundamental, but on the interaction with the manager's decision to invest. And that decision to invest is what they want to learn about from the disclosed signal. So, and then we intersect the two best response functions, right, to solve for the equilibrium N and M. And we construct an interior equilibrium here in which the manager manipulates with a positive probability if and only if the private signal is beta. So she would manipulate a beta signal, never an alpha signal. And we have a positive mass of informed traders in the market. Now, the central implication of this equilibrium is really that the manipulation intensity and the mass of informed traders generally moves in opposite directions. And this is directly related to the crowding in effect that I mentioned before. So just to give you one example, if you make manipulation more costly, that would, of course, lower the manipulation intensity in equilibrium as expected, but it would also increase the mass of informed traders, right? So that's quite interesting in our opinion, because it means that a policy change or anything like that that would make manipulation more costly would, according to our model mechanism, crowd in more informed traders and increase price efficiency, as for example. And vice versa, if you make information acquisition for traders more costly, it would, of course, lower the mass of informed traders, but it would also crowd in more manipulation because of the interaction between N and M. So the takeaway here is that more accurate accounting information improves price informativeness and vice versa. So there's a complementarity between accurate accounting information and information acquisition in the financial market. So then we talk about real efficiency and financial efficiency in the model. The simple way to define real efficiency in our model is simply what's the expected firm value. And so here we have relatively simple expression for it. So in equilibrium, the firm value of the firm depends on the mass of informed traders, right? So if the price is informative, then I can make an informed investment decision. If the price is uninformative, then the manager has to rely on her private signal. So it depends on these two pieces. And now we can perform comparative statics, right? So we can ask questions like, how would a change in the manipulation cost affect real efficiency? And of course, as you can see here, there's no direct effect, but indirectly, there would be an effect through the mass of informed traders. Okay, so then we talk about some benchmarks, some extensions. I want to leave enough time for Ram, so I will conclude now. So we construct a simple theoretical model in which there will be a firm manager with imperfect information about the fundamental. There's this market feedback effect, so the manager can learn additional information from the stock price. And the bottom line of our analysis is really that there's this complementarity between accurate reporting and information acquisition by traders. So you can think of this as offering a defense for more accurate accounting information, because more accurate accounting information would have this amplification effect of crowding in more informed traders and improving price efficiency and potentially also real efficiency. All right, let me stop here. Looking forward to Ram's discussion. Thank you.